So the Battlefield beta has come and gone, and I decided to make a video kind of showing some of the gameplay, but also showing some footage of things that I think could either be improved or things that I think are good, or maybe things that are a little bit of both. And the first one being, and I know that this is just a beta, and so all of my comments will be based on the beta because I don't know what will be actually part of the final game or what has kind of already been fixed since the beta released. But the first one being the load time, which was significantly better than BF1 or BF5. And I know that we're only loading into one map, playing one game type. But from the Xbox dashboard to getting into a game, it's a little under a minute, which is a significant improvement from BF5 being like a minute just to get to the start menu. So hopefully they figured out some way to streamline the loading in process. We don't have to sit around waiting to play. Kudos to DICE and Battlefield for hopefully getting us into games quickly so we can just get in and start playing. As you know, we were playing on Orbital, playing Conquest. This is just a not cross-play game. I'm just playing with other Xbox players. And that kind of brings me to my first point where if they decide, well, since they are doing cross-play, they need to figure out a way to let console players use mouse and keyboard. Because I guess on average, the average PC player is better than the average console player. And so if console players want to be competitive, they should have every competitive advantage that available to them. So that being mouse and keyboard, if they want to. I mean, some players just can't get the feel for mouse and keyboard, so they prefer controller. But if those that want to use a mouse and keyboard, they need to be able to use it if they want. And DICE has said a long time ago that it would support mouse and keyboard, and then they've kind of reneged on that, and now you can't. They said that they're still looking at it, but it won't be implemented at launch, and it wasn't available during the beta. So hopefully they allow that. I don't know that console players don't think that that should be available at all, but if you really think about it, like the Xbox Elite controller, for example, that gives you an advantage over regular Xbox controller users. By that logic, you shouldn't even be allowed to use a Xbox Elite controller. So I think if it's there, you might as well be able to use it, and DICE needs to be able to make it so that you can use it if you're playing against people that have a mouse and keyboard. Now, second point, a lot of people were complaining these maps are too big and it's kind of just like running simulator, but I didn't really have that problem too much. I mean, with 128 players, usually anywhere you can go, you can run into people, and kind of once you learn the map as well, it's really not that hard to get around quickly. It's no worse than any map in BF5, I thought. Like you just saw, I was ziplining up to that tower, and then I parachuted like halfway to C from Delta, and then there's this Jeep here, which you can call in vehicles to help you get around. It didn't always work here on the beta, but for the most part, I didn't really feel like it was a huge burden to get from point to point. As for McKay, I think he's the operator of choice right now, the specialist of choice, because he can kind of, that grappling hook, if you're not in a vehicle, it's almost a must-have to get around. I wasn't so sure about it at first, but once I kind of realized how to use it quickly, it really made a huge difference for getting around the map. To kind of talk about some of the things that I wasn't so keen on, and that being one of them, being shot as you're the gunner. I feel like in the gunner seat, you should have a little bit of protection because it doesn't look like when you're looking at the car that you can see who's using the gun from outside. I could be wrong. I didn't really take a good look at gunner seat positions myself, but being able to get kind of like sniped out of the gunner seat seemed a little weird. With the gadgets, you can have a med crate, and I was keen to the medic specialist at first because you could self-heal, but then I realized you can equip a med crate and drop that for yourself and your teammates. So it kind of nullified the ability of healing yourself because you had that crate there. Or I guess you lose your gadget slot, but it's not a huge loss to me. Next point is the fact that you have a really hard time, or at least I had a really hard time telling friend from foe, and I think this is going to be maybe one of their biggest problems until they get it figured out. With everyone being the same group of specialists, they all look the same, obviously, and so even with different skins in the future, there's going to be multiple people with the same skin, and so they need to figure out some way to differentiate enemies from friendlies, whether it be, okay, you're on the Russian side, so to speak, give those players Russian camo, or if you're on the Americans, have them yelling English on the field where the other team yells Russian, Ukrainian, whatever it is. I feel like I might have seen some characters with like almost a pink tinge or a red tinge on them from a distance. The worst thing is when you're really up close, you can't tell friend from foe, because with allies there's the little turquoise dot above them or the cyan dot above their head, but when you're really close you don't always see that dot, and a guy in a ghillie suit on your team looks the same as a guy in a ghillie suit on the other team. they need to kind of figure out a way to just at a glance, that's an enemy, okay, and get it figured out that way. Going back to the medic class and the Surette gun, absolutely useless. The Surette gun is way too difficult to use. It's not easy enough to tell who's not at full health on your team. So that it's gotta change. I don't see anyone using that pistol to heal their teammates. They need to make it like BF5 or BF1 where you just throw out a medical pouch to your allies, because first you have to drop your gun to equip them with a Surette pistol. Then you have to be a good enough shot while your teammates are moving around to hit them with that pistol to heal them. And there's no feedback to let you know, hey, you got your teammate, they're being healed. So you're still just kind of shooting at them until I guess you feel like you've done your job. And that's just not going to work. Like I said, they need to make it pouches again, or some other kind of auto-locking pistol or something like that where you can kind of just shoot without at a glance, because no one's going to use that. And her other ability, being able to heal anyone, no one heals, unfortunately, in Battlefield. And the fact that you can still revive your teammates in your squad, you don't need a medic to do that, since anyone can do it in the same squad. So if you're running with your squad, she's just not useful at this point. They need to redesign her kit. I know that her pistol used to revive from a distance, so you could be like behind cover and shoot and revive someone, and that seems like it was the right direction. Whereas this, where you're almost getting killed all the time reviving anyways, you have to absolutely like go prone and hide behind something to revive someone. That pistol seemed like the right idea, but now it's just it hurts. She's bad. There's really no other way to say it. She needs to kind of redesign altogether, I think. McKay, like I said, I think he's the go-to. Boris, he has that sentry gun, which is handy. I didn't really get a whole lot of hands-on time with him. I was sticking with McKay for the most part because of that grappling hook. I think McKay and Boris are maybe the ones to use right now. And see, this is like another good use of that grappling gun, just to kind of get away out of action. I don't know how I survived this whole firefight. I should have been dead 3 times, but I managed to come out on top. And see, there you go, just drop a crate, I'm being healed. Don't need to spend like 15 seconds using that medical Surette to heal myself. You can kind of stand in that AoE of that crate and you're getting healed. This is some glitch where I kept pulling out my pistol or my primary. I don't know what was going on there, but it happened until I died, I think. So moving on, changing weapon attachments. I like the idea, but I feel like it also kind of takes away the strategy of picking weapons for situations. Every gun now can be kind of like a close quarters combat weapon or a long range weapon. And so I kind of feel like that takes away from the strategy of, okay, hey, I'm going into a building, I need a close quarters weapon like an SMG or a shotgun. Instead of like, hey, I've got this assault rifle, now I can equip iron sights and hip fire. Oh, there's a guy 300 meters away, now I'll just use my 3x scope on him or 6x scope all of a sudden and high power rounds. I don't know. I mean, it's good because it kind of levels the playing field. You've got a weapon that you can modify to any situation, but at the same time, I feel like it kind of keeps you from branching out and also picking specific weapons for the situation. Maybe I'm just being boomer and don't like the idea of simplifying the process, but I feel like there's some benefit to be had from complexity, because then it really shows skill over just accepting the default. That being said, I hope that attachments are unlockable the more you use a certain weapon. I hope you just don't have like, okay, here's 3 scopes for this rifle, here's 2 under grips, here's 3 different kinds of ammo, and here's 2 different kinds of barrels. I hope that like, okay, you use the AK for 500 kills or whatever, you've unlocked the underbarrel shotgun or the grenade launcher or the 6x scope. I hope it's not just all dumped on you at the beginning, because then I feel like those that use certain weapons will be rewarded, whereas those who kind of, or I guess just give you more to unlock, more to do. And I love unlockables and assignments and achievements, so anything like that where I can unlock any attachment for any weapon through work instead of just having it given to me, I'm a fan of that. Hopefully they make it so it's unlockable and not just, hey, here's everything for you. So the squad menu is another thing that I'm not super crazy about, and I feel like Battlefield has always done something weird whenever you're trying to play with your friends. They don't want to make it too simple of a process, and so with this game you have to go to the start menu, go to your name on the scoreboard, leave whatever squad you're in, go to change squad, and then it dumps you into another random squad, not necessarily a squad of your choosing. You just have to keep going until you get to the squad that your friends are in, and that's of course really dumb. If you want to play with your friends, they should make it as easy as possible to get in with your friends instead of hoping to get in with your friends as you change squads over and over again. And who knows, that maybe that's just not having the full functionality of the menu and the beta, but BF5 was different than BF1, and neither of those games did a really good job of easily getting with your friends. Hopefully they figured it out and made it easier to do that kind of stuff, because right now it took us about 15 minutes to figure out how to actually do it. Hopefully they make it a little bit easier in the future. Another thing I felt, you never really had a good sense of when you were winning or losing. I know I had a lot of the game volume turned way down because you couldn't hear anything around you with the game music and ambient noise. That made it really difficult, but I never really felt like I knew when we were winning or losing or when the game was close to being over. I hope that they kind of figure out a way to kind of make it feel like, oh, hey, we're losing pretty bad, or hey, you're doing great. Because right now, as it stands, it just doesn't really feel like you know if you're winning or losing, other than just looking at the scoreboard. I feel like in other games, the music, the announcer kind of helped you know that, hey, you're doing well, hey, step it up. Also, I really hope that they change the scoreboard, maybe even per game type, to show flags captured, flags defended, sectors controlled type thing on the scoreboard, because, yeah, sure, kills are great, revives are great. That's not really what's earning you all the points for your team in Conquest, especially. I hope that they show that kind of stuff on the scoreboard in the future, because it just seems like it's a shooter scoreboard. And I know this is a shooter, but it's also a squad-based, objective-based shooter. So only showing kills and assists and revives is not the full story. You can kind of get a taste of that in Battlefield 5 and other previous Battlefields, because people could be at the top of the scoreboard being 1 and 18 because they were reviving or they were on the objective, capturing the flag and playing the objective, and not just killing people. Hopefully they make it so that you can see with numbers who's playing the objective and who's being a team player. So I got to about level 22 before the beta ended, and I gotta say the first 2 nights that I played it Wednesday night, the night that it launched, and a good chunk on Thursday, a good chunk on Friday night, and a little bit Saturday night. But I gotta say, I didn't really have fun playing the game until about Friday night, and it started to get a little bit more fun. And then Saturday was pretty fun too. And I think it's because I got my controls dialed in, so hopefully that they have an import your controls from a previous Battlefield, and so you could just go. That wasn't here in the beta. Hopefully it's in the full game. I spent a lot of time trying to get my controls dialed in. It just didn't feel right, and it took a long time to get it to feel comfortable. And on top of that, just the learning curve for this game, I think, is a lot higher than previous Battlefields. I'd say probably 10 hours to really feel like you know what you're doing. Shooting guns in this game is different than 5. There's a lot less recoil. You can do a lot more damage at range. There's times where I was shooting at a guy almost as a joke, and I was able to kill them just because I could do the damage that I didn't think was really possible in previous Battlefield games. I think with these bigger maps, they've done that on purpose to kind of make them feel a little bit smaller. You can engage at a farther distance and actually kill people, because otherwise, if you had to get within 30 meters of someone to kill them, then it would make these maps feel a lot bigger. And so I think that was smart of them to kind of make it so you can engage at a distance. And they've also given you all these different attachments to kind of help you engage at distance. That being said, the gunplay felt familiar, felt comfortable. It wasn't like a huge change like it was from BF1 to BF5. If you're comfortable with Battlefield 5, then I think you will like how this game feels pretty much right from the start. Character movement was a little bit weird. Once you kind of figured out your controls and made it comfortable, then it felt a lot better. I also like in this game, your car actually runs people over. In Battlefield 5, there was times where people were like inside my car and I wouldn't get a roadkill for it. So the vehicles are pretty good, I think. Cars and tanks are pretty well balanced. You can get close enough to kill a tank with C5. You can shoot out the gunners in these seats. So the only thing I think that they'll need to work on is helicopters. And it might have just been a problem with the beta because I equipped the AA launcher to try and kill helicopters. I would lock on they would flare. By the time I got locked on again, they would use their countermeasures again. And it seemed like that they could reload their countermeasures in the same amount of time it took me to lock on. There were times where me and two other teammates were all trying to shoot AA at them, and we weren't able to shoot him down. So something needs to change there. Again, I don't know if it was just an artifact of the beta, but that was something that definitely needs some consideration. Either increase the cooldown for their countermeasures or actually make the AA rocket launcher work, do something. That needs to change, because if you've got a good helicopter pilot, they'll be in a helicopter the entire game, just absolutely decimating the other team, and that kind of ruins the fun and immersion a little bit. The flight controls, I have to say, also are pretty bad. If they could just import Ace Combat controls into this game, then you would have a awesome... Anyone could pick up the game and fly a fighter jet. As it stands right now, oof, it's bad. It's a steep learning curve for anyone who's never flown a helicopter in this game before. Some people that have played it, maybe in BF4 or previous Battlefields, will feel comfortable flying these helicopters. But since I picked it up in Battlefield 1, it's going to be hard. You're just trying to fly in this game. Be prepared to spend several rounds crashing into the ground and just really struggling to figure it out. I'm going to keep trying, and I've heard it's a lot easier with a mouse and keyboard, which is another reason they need to allow console players to use a mouse and keyboard if they want. I really like this game's iron sights. Battlefield 5's iron sights felt just kind of weird to me. I liked BF1's iron sights, and this game feels more similar to BF1 iron sights than BF5 iron sights. So I'm glad that they've changed whatever it was. And it's hard to say. I don't even know really what it was about BF5's iron sights that were so bad. I think they were just too small to be useful. Whereas in this game, you can actually kind of see and discern while looking through the iron sights. So that's a big plus, because now you can kind of just run with iron sights and not have to worry about that. Some more about the attachments. A lot of them, they almost seem to be like a detriment. If you looked at the stats page while changing attachments, you can see that a lot of them don't offer you anything, and they actually hurt your overall stats for the weapon. I just found that adding some of the attachments didn't really benefit too much, and so why bother? And I'm sure that they will be tweaking that as the game goes on, because since this will be kind of like a live service game where things will be changing throughout the life of the game, you'll have changes, buffs, nerfs as the game goes on. Squad play is going to be the only way to really have a lot of fun with. I've always played with a squad. I've got a group of guys that I like to play with, and it definitely makes a difference versus playing by yourself. If you go down in this game by yourself, you're probably not going to get revived. One, because it's really hard for anyone to tell that you're down, and two, you don't know if anyone's coming to revive you, so you can either sit there and wait for 30 seconds to maybe get revived or just bleed out and die. Well, I could easily talk about this game for another hour or two, but I won't bore you to tears with that. If you agree with what I have to say, go ahead and leave a comment. If you think I'm an idiot, leave a comment as well. I love discourse. I'd love to hear your thoughts and have a good discussions. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the game. Hope you enjoyed the beta, and I look forward to seeing you out on the battlefield in 2042. Take care.